Commander Zareth stood at the observation window of the Galactic Council chamber. His reflection stared back at him from the crystal-clear surface. He looked powerful. His dark scales caught the light from 3 different suns. His species, the Kravashi, were among the most feared warriors in known space. They came from a world where gravity crushed the weak, where storms could tear apart stone, where only the strong survived. Today was his first time at the council. He had earned this honor through countless battles. Through victories that made his enemies flee in terror. He held his head high as he walked into the massive chamber. The chamber was huge. It could fit 10 warships inside it. Representatives from hundreds of species sat in curved rows that reached up to the ceiling. Some looked like insects. Others were made of pure energy. Some floated in tanks of liquid. The diversity of life in the galaxy always amazed him, even though he would never admit it out loud. At the center of the room sat the architects. They were the elder species. Ancient beyond measure, they had been traveling the stars when Zareth's ancestors were still living in caves. Their bodies glowed with a soft blue light. They rarely spoke, but when they did, everyone listened. The lead architect raised one long, thin arm. The chamber fell silent immediately. Even the proudest warriors knew to show respect to the elders. "We welcome our new members to the council," the architect's voice echoed in everyone's mind. They did not speak with words. They spoke directly into your thoughts. "As is our custom, we must remind you of the forbidden zones and species." Zareth listened with half his attention. This was standard procedure. Every new member received the same warnings. Do not enter the dead zones where ancient weapons still functioned. Do not disturb the sleeping machine worlds. Do not contact the species in the dark nebula. He had heard it all before in his briefings. Then the architect said something that made him focus completely. And above all, the elder's mental voice grew heavy with weight. Do not engage the humans. Do not provoke them. Do not underestimate them. The chamber remained silent, but Zareth saw other new members exchange glances. Humans, the small pink creatures from the backwater systems, the ones who had barely joined the galactic community 200 years ago. Zareth had studied humans during his preparation. They controlled maybe 40 star systems. Their ships were decent but not exceptional. Their weapons were average. They seemed friendly enough at council meetings. They traded fairly and kept to themselves mostly. Why would the architects warn about them with such seriousness? After the formal session ended, Zareth found himself in the officers' lounge. It was a place where military commanders from different species gathered to drink and talk. Here, away from the formal politics, real opinions came out. Did you hear that? A Thoraxian commander laughed. His 6 arms gestured wildly. Do not engage the humans, as if they are dangerous. The elders grow paranoid in their old age, another officer added. This one belonged to the Velcrin swarm. Humans are soft. They have no natural weapons, no armor, no poison. They are not even good at combat. Zareth sipped his drink. It burned pleasantly down his throat. Perhaps the elders know something we do not, he said carefully. Like what? The Thoraxian challenged. I have fought in 50 campaigns. I have conquered 12 worlds. I know a warrior species when I see one. Humans are not warriors. They are merchants. They are diplomats. They smile too much and talk about peace. The other officers agreed loudly. The alcohol was making them bold. They compared their military victories. They boasted about their conquests. And they laughed at the idea of humans being a threat. But Zareth found himself thinking. The architects never wasted words. They had survived for millions of years by being careful, by being smart. If they warned against engaging humans, there must be a reason. Yet when he looked at the data, he saw nothing special. Human space contained rich mining colonies, valuable resources, weak defenses. For an empire like the Kravashi, which needed to expand to support its growing military, human territory looked like an easy target. Over the next few weeks, the idea grew in Zareth's mind. His people were strong. They were proud. They had never lost a war. If they struck quickly at a small human colony, they could take valuable resources and prove their power to the galaxy. The council would complain, but they always complained. They never actually did anything. He presented his plan to the high command. They loved it. A quick raid. Minimal risk. Maximum reward. It would send a message that the Kravashi Empire was not to be ignored. What about the architect's warning? one old admiral asked. The elders are cautious by nature, Zareth replied smoothly. They warned us not to engage. But if humans fire first, we are simply defending ourselves. We will make sure they have reason to shoot. The High Command approved the mission. Zareth assembled a fleet, 25 warships, each one capable of destroying a small moon. He chose his target carefully, a remote mining colony called New Perth. It was far from major human settlements. It had only one small patrol ship for defense. Perfect. As his fleet gathered, Zareth felt excitement building in his chest. This would be his moment of glory. The raid that proved the Krevashi were the true military power in this sector. Future generations would study his tactics. On the command deck of his flagship, Zareth watched his crew prepare for the jump to human space. They moved with practiced efficiency. They had done this many times before. This was just another conquest. Another easy victory to add to their long list. All ships report ready, Commander, his tactical officer announced. Zareth settled into his command throne. The architect's warning flickered through his mind one last time. Do not engage humans. He pushed the thought away. The elders were old. They feared everything now. Times had changed. Begin the jump, he ordered. Space twisted around his fleet. Reality bent and folded. For a moment that felt like forever and no time at all. They existed between dimensions. Then they emerged into human space. New Perth hung before them like a jewel. The mining colony glowed with lights. Ships moved between the planet and several large processing stations. Everything looked peaceful. Unaware. Vulnerable. Zareth smiled, showing all his sharp teeth. This would be over quickly. He had no idea how wrong he was. The elders had tried to warn him. But some lessons can only be learned through pain. And Zareth's education was about to begin. The alert came immediately. Every sensor on the human mining colony lit up at once. 25 unknown warships had just appeared at the edge of the system. Their weapons were active. Their shields were up. This was not a friendly visit. Captain Maria Santos sat in the control room of the patrol corvette Steadfast. She was drinking coffee when the alarm started screaming. The coffee cup shattered on the floor. She did not notice battle stations, she shouted. Get me a clear channel to those ships. And someone wake up command. Tell them we have a situation. Her crew moved fast. They had drilled for this moment, but no one expected it to actually happen. New Perth was in the middle of nowhere. Who would attack a mining colony? The answer came quickly. The lead enemy ship broadcast a message. Attention, human colony. This is Commander Zareth of the Krevashi Empire. You are surrounded. Your defenses are meaningless. Surrender immediately, and you will not be harmed. Resist and you will be destroyed. Maria felt her blood run cold. Then hot, then cold again. The Krevashi? She knew about them. Everyone in the military did. They were strong, aggressive, and they never bluffed. She opened the communication channel. Her voice was calm. Years of training took over. Commander Zareth, you have violated sovereign human territory. Withdraw immediately or face consequences. In his command throne, Zareth actually laughed. The sound echoed across all frequencies. Consequences? You have one old ship and a mining colony. We have 25 warships. Your bravery is admirable but stupid. This is your last chance. Maria looked at her tactical display. He was right. On paper, this was not even close to a fair fight. The Steadfast was 50 years old. Most of her weapon systems were outdated. The colony had no military defenses at all, just mining equipment and cargo haulers, but she had sent the emergency signal. Command knew. Help would come. All she had to do was buy time. Negative, Commander. You want this colony? Come and take it. Zareth stopped laughing. These humans were either very brave or very stupid. Either way, he would teach them respect. Open fire. Target their ship. The Krevashi warships unleashed their weapons. Energy beams cut through space. Missiles streaked toward the tiny human corvette. It should have been over in seconds. Instead, the Steadfast charged directly at the flagship. Zareth could not believe what he was seeing. The human ship twisted and turned through the barrage. It took hits. Armor melted away. Sections vented atmosphere. But it kept coming. Kept firing. Kept fighting. What are they doing? His tactical officer gasped. They are trying to ram us, Zareth realized with shock. They are actually trying to ram us. At the last moment, the Steadfast changed course. It was not trying to ram after all. It fired every weapon it had at point-blank range directly into one of the escort ships. The Krivashi vessel's shields collapsed. Its hull cracked open. Air and bodies spilled into space, then the Steadfast exploded. The humans had overloaded their reactor. The blast took out 2 more Krivashi ships. 3 ships gone in the first minute of battle. Zareth felt something he had not experienced in years. Surprise. The colony is launching ships, someone shouted. On the planet below, miners were climbing into cargo haulers, transport ships, personal shuttles, anything that could fly. They strapped mining explosives to the hulls. They jury-rigged welding torches as weapons. Then they launched toward the Krivashi fleet. It was insane. It was suicide. It was effective. The modified cargo haulers were slow and poorly armed, but there were dozens of them. They swarmed the Krivashi ships like angry insects. Some were destroyed quickly. Others got close enough to detonate their explosive cargo against enemy shields. Zareth watched in growing horror as his tactical display lit up with damage reports. 4 ships, 5 ships, 6 ships, all damaged or destroyed by civilians and mining equipment. Then the planet itself started fighting back. The mining facilities had massive ore processors, equipment that could crack asteroids and extract minerals. The humans modified them, turned them into improvised railguns. They started launching chunks of metal at incredible speeds toward the Krivashi fleet. A 5-ton piece of iron moving at escape velocity hit one of his cruisers. The ship's shields held, but barely. Another projectile followed, then another. The humans were using their entire industrial capacity as a weapon. "Commander, we need to pull back and engage from longer range," his tactical officer urged. "No. We are Krivashi. We do not retreat from inferior opponents," Zareth roared. His pride would not allow it. "All ships focus fire on those ground installations." The battle became brutal. The Krivashi had superior weapons and armor. They should have won easily. But the humans refused to accept defeat. Every colonist became a soldier. Every tool became a weapon. Every moment of life was spent fighting. In the colony's command center, Governor Michael Torres coordinated the defense. He was 70 years old. He had been a Marine in his youth, decades ago. Now he watched his people die through security cameras and tried to make their deaths count. "Sector 7 is gone," someone reported. "Direct hit from orbit. Redirect Sectors 8 and 9 to target the damaged cruiser," Torres ordered. His voice never shook. "If we are going down, we are taking as many of them with us as possible." The battle lasted 3 hours. In the end, the Krivashi won. They had more ships, better weapons, and military training. But the cost was horrifying. When the last human gun fell silent, Zareth looked at his fleet. 7 ships destroyed completely. Another 8 badly damaged, nearly 30% of his force. Lost taking a single mining colony that should have surrendered without a fight. He ordered a landing party to secure the surviving facilities. They found Governor Torres in the ruins of the command center. The old man was wounded but alive. They dragged him before Zareth. "You have fought well," Zareth admitted, "but you have lost. Your colony is destroyed. Your people are dead or captured. What do you have to say?" Torres smiled through broken teeth and blood. His eyes were bright with something Zareth could not identify at first. Then he recognized it. "Satisfaction. I sent the emergency signal before you jammed our communications," Torres said. His voice was rough but clear. "Command knows you are here. They know what you did. And now you have made the biggest mistake in your species' history." "Mistake? I have conquered your colony. You attacked civilians. You killed miners and their families. You think this was a military target? These were ordinary people just trying to make a living." Torres's smile grew wider despite his pain. "You have no idea what is coming for you now." Zareth felt a cold sensation crawl up his spine. The architect's warning echoed in his mind. "Do not engage humans. Do not provoke them. Lock him up," Zareth ordered. "Prepare the fleet to return home. We are leaving." As his damaged fleet limped away from New Perth, Zareth tried to convince himself that everything was fine. Yes, the battle had been harder than expected. Yes, they had taken losses. But they had won. The colony was destroyed. The mission was complete. Then his sensors detected something at the edge of the system. Ships. Human ships. They appeared for just a moment on his screens, then vanished again. But he had seen them. They were watching. Waiting. Governor Torres's words came back to him. "You have no idea what is coming for you now. For the first time in his military career, Commander Zareth felt afraid. The jump back to Krivashi space took 6 days. 6 days of silence on the command deck. 6 days of watching the sensors for pursuit. 6 days of trying not to think about what had happened at New Perth. Zareth spent most of his time reviewing the battle recordings. He watched them over and over. The suicidal charge of the patrol corvette, the improvised weapons, the miners and cargo haulers attacking warships with mining explosives. It made no sense. His tactical officer approached carefully. The young Krivashi looked nervous. "Commander, we are detecting anomalies." "What kind of anomalies?" "Ships, sir. At the edge of our sensor range. They appear for a few seconds, then disappear. We have counted at least 15 separate contacts." "Are they following us?" "Yes, Commander. They maintain a constant distance, always just at the limits of detection." Zareth felt his scales prickle. This was psychological warfare. The humans wanted him to know they were there, wanted him to feel hunted. It was working. Increase speed. Maximum jump capacity. "Sir, the damaged ships cannot maintain that speed. Then they fall behind." Zareth knew it was cruel, but he needed to reach home. Needed the protection of the Empire's main fleet. All ships capable of full speed form up on the flagship. The rest maintain current velocity. The fleet split. 14 ships stayed with Zareth. 8 damaged vessels fell behind, moving slower. 12 hours later, the first damaged ship went silent. No distress call. No battle, just silence. When the remaining fast ships circled back to investigate, they found wreckage. The ship had been cut apart with surgical precision. Every critical system destroyed. Every escape pod jettisoned into space, empty. Over the next 3 days, the other 7 damaged ships met the same fate. Each time, the human ships appeared, struck with devastating accuracy, and vanished before Zareth could respond. The humans were not fighting like any species he knew. They used tactics that should not work. They hid in places sensors should detect them. They struck from multiple directions simultaneously, and they were learning. Each attack was more effective than the last. Far away in the Galactic Council chambers, an emergency session had been called. The news of the New Perth attack had spread quickly. The human ambassador stood at the central podium. Her name was Sarah Chen. She was small, barely 5.5 feet tall. She looked fragile compared to most species in the chamber, but her voice carried to every corner of the vast room. "The Krivashi Empire attacked our colony without provocation. They killed 4,000 civilians, miners, engineers, teachers, children." She paused. Let the word children sink in. They destroyed homes, schools, and hospitals. This was not a military operation. This was murder. The Krivashi representative tried to argue. It was a strategic target. "A military action." "A mining colony is not a military target," Chen replied coldly. "And now humanity will respond." The architects chose that moment to speak. Their mental voices filled everyone's mind with a weight like gravity. "We warned you," the lead architect said, looking directly at the Krivashi representative. "We warned all species. Do not engage the humans. Why?" The question came from the Thoraxian ambassador. "Why are humans so dangerous? They are not the strongest species, not the fastest, not the smartest. What makes them special?" The elder was silent for a long moment. Then it began to share a memory so old that it came from before most current species had even developed spaceflight. 150 years ago, another species made the same mistake as the Krivashi. They were called the Vraxi Dominion. They were powerful. They controlled 300 star systems. Their military was feared across the galaxy. The chamber was silent. Everyone leaned forward to hear. The Vraxi attacked human colonies during humanity's early expansion into space. They thought humans were weak. They were wrong. Within 5 years, the Vraxi Dominion no longer existed. Not defeated, not conquered, erased. Shocked murmurs filled the chamber. The Vraxi had been a major power. Everyone remembered them from the history files, but no one had known how they disappeared. "Humans do not fight like other species," the architect continued. "Other species fight for territory, for resources, for dominance. Humans fight with emotion. When you attack their people, you do not just make an enemy, you make them angry. And angry humans are terrifying. But surely they can be reasoned with," someone suggested. "Diplomacy, compensation, peace treaties?" "Perhaps. But there is something else you must understand." The elder's mental voice grew heavy. Humans have a concept they call total war. When threatened, their entire civilization mobilizes. Every factory becomes a weapon producer. Every civilian becomes a potential soldier. Every resource is directed toward victory. No other species has done this in 10,000 years. Ambassador Chen stood quietly, letting the architect's words sink in. She did not look proud or happy. She looked sad, as if she wished none of this were necessary. Back in space, Zareth's remaining fleet finally reached the border of Kravashi territory. He should have felt relief. Instead, he felt dread, because waiting at the border were human ships, not the small stealth vessels that had been hunting his stragglers. These were proper warships, carriers, battlecruisers, destroyers, dozens of them. A message came through on all frequencies, a human voice calm and clear. Commander Zareth, I am Admiral James Mitchell of the United Human Defense Force. You attacked our colony. You killed our people. We gave you fair warning. You ignored it. Now you have our attention. Zareth tried to keep his voice steady. This is Kravashi space. You are in violation of our borders. You violated ours first. Here are our terms. You will surrender yourself and your command staff for trial. You will pay reparations for the damage, and you will demilitarize all border systems. You have 24 hours to comply. And if we refuse? There was a pause. When the Admiral spoke again, his voice was colder. Then we will teach you why the Elders warned you not to engage us. 24 hours, Commander. We will be waiting. The communication ended. Zareth stared at the tactical display showing the human fleet. He had started this with 25 ships. Now he had 14. The humans had dozens and more were arriving every hour. He sent a message to High Command explaining the situation and requesting instructions. The response came quickly. The High Command was proud. They refused to show weakness. They would not surrender. They would not pay. They would fight. Zareth closed his eyes. He thought about the architect's warning, about Governor Torres's smile, about the destroyed ships behind him. The Kravashi had made their choice. Now they would face the consequences. And Zareth was beginning to understand that those consequences would be far worse than anyone imagined. 24 hours passed. The Kravashi High Command sent their response through official diplomatic channels. They rejected all human demands. They called the ultimatum an insult. They declared that the Kravashi Empire would never bow to threats. Admiral Mitchell received the message aboard his flagship, the UHDF Relentless. He read it twice, then handed it to his communications officer. Send this to every Kravashi world, every news network, every civilian communication system they have. I want everyone to see it. The message was simple. It contained the names and faces of every person who died at New Perth. 4,000 names, 4,000 faces, children, parents, grandparents, engineers, teachers, artists, each one listed with their age and occupation. Below the list was a single sentence. These are the people your government murdered. Remember their names. The broadcast flooded every screen in Kravashi space. It could not be blocked or stopped. The human hackers were too good. For 3 days straight, every Kravashi citizen saw the faces of the dead. Then the real war began. The humans did not charge in with overwhelming force. They did not try to match the Kravashi fleet in straight combat. Instead, they fought in ways the galaxy had not seen in millennia. Human ships appeared in places they should not be able to reach. They struck military supply lines, then vanished before reinforcements arrived. They hacked communication networks and spread false orders. They turned the Kravashi strength against itself. Every battle was different. Sometimes the humans used massive firepower, overwhelming local defenses with coordinated strikes. Other times, a single stealth ship would slip past sensors and sabotage key installations. Sometimes they fought in space, sometimes on the ground. Sometimes they just damaged infrastructure and left, forcing the Kravashi to waste resources on repairs. The Kravashi military had superior numbers, better armor, stronger warriors, but the humans had something else. They had determination that bordered on obsession. Every human soldier knew the names of the people who died at New Perth. They carried those names into battle. Zareth watched his empire begin to crumble. He had been stripped of command and placed under house arrest. But he still received reports, still watched the tactical displays. And what he saw terrified him. The humans never gave up. Ships that should retreat kept fighting. Pilots who should eject stayed with damaged fighters to make one more attack. Marines fought hand-to-hand against physically superior Kravashi warriors, using tactics and weapons that made up for their smaller size. One report particularly haunted him. A human frigate, heavily damaged and leaking atmosphere, had been surrounded by 3 Kravashi cruisers. The captain was ordered to surrender. Instead, she rammed her dying ship into one cruiser at full speed. The explosion destroyed both vessels and damaged the other 2 cruisers so badly they had to withdraw. When rescue crews reached the wreckage, they found that the human captain had sealed herself in the bridge. She could have escaped in a pod. Instead, she stayed to make sure the ship hit its target. Her last words were recorded in the ship's log. For New Perth, Zareth began reviewing everything humans had provided to the Galactic database. Their history, their culture, their biology, and slowly he started to understand. Humans came from a death world. Their planet was extreme in every way. Violent weather, dangerous predators, diseases that killed millions. Yet humans survived, not through strength or speed, but through stubbornness. Through refusing to quit even when all logic said they should. They were persistence hunters. On their ancient world, humans would chase prey for days, running until the prey collapsed from exhaustion, never stopping, never giving up. That trait was in their blood, in their culture, in every cell of their bodies. And they had another trait, one that no other species understood. Humans called it spite, the willingness to suffer immense losses just to ensure an enemy paid a higher price. It was irrational. It was wasteful. It was terrifying. The war turned into a nightmare for the Kravashi. The humans pushed deeper into their space, not conquering planets but isolating them, cutting supply lines, creating dozens of sieges that drained military resources. The Kravashi government grew desperate. They called emergency sessions. They sent peace feelers through diplomatic channels. But the humans always came back with the same demands. Surrender Zareth and his staff. Pay reparations, demilitarize, accept responsibility. The High Command refused. Pride would not allow them to admit defeat. So the war continued. Then came the reports that made Zareth's blood run cold. The humans were deploying weapons they had kept hidden. Technology that should not exist. Ships that could fold space in ways no one understood. Weapons that warped reality itself. Electronic warfare so advanced it made Kravashi computers turn against their own operators. The humans had been hiding their true capabilities. They had been holding back. And now, with thousands of their civilians dead, they were showing the galaxy what they could really do. Zareth realized the horrible truth. The humans had never been weak. They had been waiting, watching, learning about other species. And when finally provoked, they responded with overwhelming force. In his detention cell, he accessed one more file. The historical records of the Vraxi Dominion, the species the architects had mentioned. He read about their war with humanity, and he found something no one had known. The Vraxi had not just been defeated. They had been given multiple chances to surrender. The humans had offered peace repeatedly, but the Vraxi, proud and arrogant, had refused. They escalated. They attacked human civilian centers. They used biological weapons so humanity erased them, not as revenge, but as a lesson to the galaxy, a message that said we want peace. We prefer peace, but if you make us fight, we will fight until you cannot fight back anymore. The Kravashi were following the same path, and Zareth could see where it would end. Then came the report that made everything worse. The High Command, facing total defeat, had made a decision. They would use a planet-killer weapon, a forbidden device that could destroy an entire world. Their target, New Terra, a core human colony with 4 billion inhabitants. Zareth tried to send warnings, tried to stop them, but he was locked away, powerless. He could only watch the tactical displays and pray to gods he did not believe in that somehow this could be stopped. The Planet Killer launched, a massive weapon moving through space at incredible speed. It would reach New Terra in 72 hours. If it hit, billions would die. The war would escalate beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. Zareth watched the countdown timer and knew with absolute certainty that his species had just signed its own death warrant. The humans had been holding back. They had been fighting with restraint. Now the Kravashi had targeted civilians. They had crossed the line that humans would never forgive, and Zareth understood finally and completely why the elders had warned them, why the architects had been so grave, why Governor Torres had smiled through his pain. You could fight humans and lose. You could surrender to humans and survive. But if you tried to exterminate humans, they would show you what extinction really looked like. The human fleet detected the planet-killer weapon the moment it launched. Every alarm system in human space screamed warnings. 4 billion people on New Terra began evacuating. But there was not enough time. Not enough ships. Everyone knew that. Admiral Mitchell stood on the bridge of the Relentless, staring at the tactical display. The weapon was massive, heavily shielded, moving at speeds that made interception nearly impossible. Nearly, but not completely. "All ships," he broadcast across the fleet. "This is Admiral Mitchell. The enemy has targeted New Terra. They are trying to kill billions of our people, our families, our future. We can stop this weapon, but it will cost us everything." He paused, looked at the faces of his crew, saw the determination there, saw them already making the choice he knew they would make. "I am ordering all volunteer ships to intercept the weapon. Form up on my position. We go together. For New Terra, for humanity, for the future." Every ship volunteered. Every single one. 53 warships turned toward the incoming planet killer and accelerated to maximum speed. The weapon's escorts tried to stop them. Kravashi ships died trying to protect their ultimate weapon. But the humans pushed through. They took damage. They took losses. They did not stop. When the fleet reached the planet killer, Admiral Mitchell gave his final order. Every ship fired everything they had at the same moment. Every weapon, every missile, every beam. They poured decades of accumulated firepower into a single point on the weapon's shield. The shield held. For 3 seconds it held. Then it collapsed. The ships charged forward. They rammed the exposed weapon. One by one they sacrificed themselves. 53 ships. Over 50,000 personnel. All of them knowing they would not survive. All of them doing it anyway. The planet killer exploded in a flash of light that could be seen from 3 star systems away. New Terra was saved. 4 billion people lived, and 50,000 heroes died to make it happen. The human response was immediate. "You targeted civilians," the broadcast said. "It came from every human ship, every human station, every human world." The voice belonged to the human president herself. There is no negotiation now. There is no mercy. There is only justice. The humans unleashed everything, all the weapons they had been hiding, all the technology they had kept secret, ships that could fold space and appear inside enemy formations, weapons that manipulated gravity and crushed ships like paper, electronic warfare that made entire fleets turn on themselves, and something else, something that made the watching galaxy recoil in shock. Nano-weapons. Microscopic machines that spread through Kravashi military equipment and simply stopped it from working. Ships lost power. Weapons refused to fire. Communication systems went silent. The nano-plague was precise. It affected only military hardware. Nothing else. But it was relentless. Within a week, the Kravashi military was crippled. In the Galactic Council chambers, the architects watched in silence. Other species demanded they intervene. The humans had gone too far. They were too dangerous, but the lead architect simply said, "We warned them. We warned everyone." The Kravashi chose this path. Then the Elder did something unprecedented. It shared a memory. A memory from millions of years ago. A memory of when the architects themselves had made a terrible mistake. "Long ago we discovered Earth," the architect said. "We found a species of clever primates. We thought we could use them. We took some. Enslaved them. Tried to make them servants." The other species in the chamber leaned forward. This was history no one knew. Those primitive humans armed with nothing but stones and stolen tools organized a rebellion. They learned our technology by watching. They stole our ships through determination and sacrifice. And they threatened to destroy our homeworld unless we returned them to Earth. The chamber was silent with shock. We could have killed them all. But we made a choice. We recognized something special in these beings. They did not know when they were beaten because they refused to accept defeat. So we made peace. We returned them to their world. And we left them with a warning for ourselves and all who would come after. Leave humans alone. Do not provoke them. Do not underestimate them. The architect's mental voice grew heavy. That was hundreds of thousands of years ago. Since then, we have watched humanity grow, watched them struggle and survive and thrive. We have seen them face extinction events and refuse to die. We have seen them reach for the stars with nothing but determination and hope. We do not fear many things anymore, but we respect humans. and we warn others to do the same. On the Krevashi homeworld, the government finally collapsed. The military was in ruins, the economy was shattered, and the people, seeing the faces of the new Perth dead for weeks, had lost faith in their leaders. A new government formed quickly. Their first action was to surrender. Unconditionally, they agreed to every human demand. They offered Zareth and his command staff for trial. They agreed to pay reparations. They demilitarized their borders. Zareth was brought before a mixed tribunal. Human judges, Galactic Council representatives, architects, they reviewed the evidence, heard testimony from survivors, watched the recordings of the new Perth attack. He expected execution. He deserved it. He had started a war that killed millions. He had ignored warnings. He had let pride and arrogance guide his decisions. But the humans surprised him one final time. Commander Zareth, the human judge, said, "You are guilty of war crimes, of attacking civilians, of starting an unjust war. By the laws of your people, the penalty would be death. By galactic law, the penalty would be death." Zareth bowed his head, accepted his fate. But humans believe in something called redemption. We believe that even those who do terrible things can learn, can change, can serve as warnings to others. The judge's voice was firm but not cruel. "You are sentenced to life imprisonment. You will spend your remaining years teaching others about the cost of arrogance, about the price of ignoring wisdom, about why the elders warned you not to engage humans." So Zareth lived. He was kept in a facility on a neutral world, and every day young beings from across the galaxy came to hear his story. Students, diplomats, military officers. He told them everything, showed them the recordings, explained every mistake. Years passed, decades. Zareth grew old, but he never stopped teaching, never stopped warning others. One day near the end of his life, a young Krevashi officer came to visit. The youth was proud, confident, reminded Zareth of himself long ago. "Tell me, honored elder," the young officer said. "The war was decades ago. Times have changed. Surely humans cannot be as dangerous as the stories say." Zareth looked at the youth for a long moment. Then he spoke, his voice carrying the weight of painful experience. The elders gave one command, a simple command. "Do not engage humans." I ignored it. I thought I was smarter, stronger, better. I was wrong. He gestured to the screens showing the faces of the new Perth dead. These people died because of my arrogance. Millions more died in the war that followed. And I learned the hardest lesson in the galaxy. What lesson is that? Humans do not fight to win. They fight until you lose. They do not seek glory in battle. They seek to protect their people. And if you threaten their people, they will show you what determination really means. Zareth's voice dropped to barely a whisper. They are not the strongest species, not the fastest, not even the smartest, but they are the most stubborn, the most determined, the most willing to sacrifice everything for what they believe in. He leaned forward, looking the young officer in the eyes. So hear me well. Take this warning back to your superiors, to your government, to anyone who will listen. The elders gave one command for a reason. Do not engage humans. Do not provoke them. Do not underestimate them. And whatever you do, do not make them angry. The young officer left, chastened and thoughtful. Zareth watched him go and hoped the lesson would stick. Hoped that his mistakes would prevent future wars. Meanwhile, in the Galactic Council chambers, a new session was beginning. New members were being welcomed. And as always, the architects gave their warnings. A human diplomat sat among the representatives. Ambassador Sarah Chen, now elderly but still sharp. When the warnings reached the part about humans, she noticed the new members paying careful attention. Good. The lesson had been learned. After the session, a young species representative approached her nervously. Ambassador Chen, I must ask, the warnings about your species, are they truly necessary? You seem so peaceful, Chen smiled. It was a tired smile, a sad smile. We are peaceful. We prefer peace above all things. We want to trade, to learn, to grow together with our galactic neighbors. She paused, her smile fading. But we have learned hard lessons in our history. We know what happens when peaceful people are pushed too far, when their families are threatened, when their homes are destroyed, and then we become something else, something we do not want to be. We become the monsters the galaxy fears. Her voice was quiet but firm. But here is the thing. We are very, very good at it. So the warnings exist not to threaten anyone. They exist to protect everyone. Because we would rather be friends than enemies. We would rather build than destroy. We would rather live in peace than rule through fear. The young representative nodded slowly, understanding beginning to dawn.